Do you have anything lying around your house which you've used consistently for years? Even if you don't use it every day, it's something that you know when you need it, it'll be there. You know how it'll work. You've used it so many times, it's almost muscle memory. That item becomes almost an extension of yourself. Chances are you do have something like that if you thought hard enough about it. But also, chances are you have less items like that than your ancestors did. In modernity, as we all know, we like stuff, we like items, things, and we like to have more of them than less of them. And it's kind of beating a dead horse here to say that things just ain't made like they used to be. Things aren't made like they're made in the 70s, like they're made in the 60s, 50s, 40s, and you go back and before you know it, things really aren't made at all like they used to be whatsoever. Now, we've obviously gained a lot with this kind of culture around items, right? I mean, I think we actually take it very much for granted how affordable glass is, for instance. A simple vessel for water would at a time have been very expensive for the common person. Usually would have drinking from wood, tankards, more natural materials. But here it is. I think I got this one actually at a thrift store for probably like 50 cents. And when I'm done with it, because it'll break one day or just, I don't know, for some reason or another I'll have to part with it, it'll probably end up in a landfill. Super cheap, super expendable. But did we lose something with this attitude towards items, things, tools? Is there something we're missing that we used to have? I'm not 100% sure, but I think our ancestors would have said so. They would agree that we have. So I have a few items here just for the purpose of talking and to kind of share a bit of my collection. I have a small collection of axes and hatchets. I like to camp and like to go outdoors, so they actually have a utility. They're not all just display pieces, but some of them are. And I picked a few just to make a point. So I have here a hatchet that I got custom made by a blacksmith in the United States and sent to me. Now, his maker's mark is on here, and I could tell you who he is. I'm not sure that I should, so I'm not going to, though it's probably not a big deal. Anyways, made out of leaf spring steel, very strong. The head is incredibly sharp. I'm talking razor sharp. It's imperfect because a human made it. And the main point of what I ordered from him was the actual head itself. The handle is just a American hickory hammer handle, which can be replaced. Interesting thing, this hatchet is mounted in the Celt style, which means that the head is actually going straight through the handle, as you can see here. And then there are two pins driven into the haft to mount the head to the actual handle. So that's Celt style spring steel hatchet. Mind me bending and all that, I just have to pick up my pieces. This one I got made by a blacksmith in Canada. Beautiful piece. Comes with a leather mask. Made out of a railroad spike. So, railroad steel is very commonly available in Canada because there's a lot of old deteriorating railroads. And so people take the spikes that are kind of off by the wayside and they make things out of them. And so I actually sent him a picture of the shape of the head I wanted because I had a specific idea in mind for what I wanted to achieve with this. And he went ahead and he took a railroad spike and formed it to exactly my specifications. And this is just a beautiful piece. I love this. Yeah. And finally, we have something a little different. So this is a cold steel hatchet. Hudson Bay hatchet. Now, this is just a homemade little mask I put on it so that I don't cut myself because it's razor sharp. So this was stamped at a factory in Vietnam. probably on the same day that this one was made, hundreds of others of identical type rolled off the same assembly line. A machine then drove the head with way too much force onto this hickory haft. I can tell it was with too much force and was done by a machine because when I got this, there was wood chips under the axe head where the wood had shaved away from the pressure. So first thing I did upon receiving this was sand down the head, remove some of the black paint coating the head. I ground off the Vietnam maker's mark. I took out the hex screw that's in here, and I fixed the fitting of the head so that the axe head fits snugly on, as well as can be taken off. I can knock this off for storage or for travel. Everything here is mass-produced, machine specifications, no thought. Still very pretty. Now, this, the size it is, it's a lot of wood, a lot of metal, cost me maybe a quarter what this little guy cost. Okay? But this had an actual human being laboring over it, making it with me in mind, or what I asked for in mind. The blacksmith actually had to physically strike this metal, tease out the shape from it, strengthen it, harden it, fit it to this handle for me. So there's been thought, there's been intelligence put into this tool. Whether or not it's superior or inferior as far as technicality to a machine-made tool, it can't be denied that someone has put love into it. And the same goes for my American spring steel Celt-style hatchet, right? More expensive than that bigger one. Very imperfect looking, as anything handmade is. But it's almost organic in a sense. And so I've heard people say that if Europeans didn't Christianize, they might look a little bit like Japanese, Shinto Japanese. And I think there's maybe something to that. Obviously, it's very hard to predict how a culture would look with such a massive change as Europe not Christianizing. But I think it's fair to say that in some ways, pre-Christian religion Europeans were like Shinto Japanese. And you'll notice in Japan and in Shinto, there's a respect and a reverence that is due to tools that you use, especially if it's a tool used to carry out a profession. And so it makes sense, where I'm going with this, why our ancestors, in this case picking on specifically the Norse, revered axes. To the degree that archaeologists call some of these cultures and their precursors axe cultures or boat axe cultures. This is an item. This is the AK-47 as well as the axe of its day. An artisan had to make it, and then this simple little tool would allow you to do everything from build a house, keep your family warm in the winter, go to war, fetch loot, improve your standing in society, protect yourself, all from this little piece of metal. And so from the very moment that this is being forged to the very last time it's used, it's an intimately human thing. And that's something that both our ancestors and the Japanese and different cultures around the world understand a lot better than we do. And it lends itself to this sort of spiritual worldview, almost like an animism, where it's a lot easier to understand and appreciate the things you have when you view them as individual things versus assembly line, mass-produced, stamped things. Yeah, I think we've probably lost quite a bit in this way of being. So it's an interesting thought. I would be interested to hear my audience's opinion on what Europe would look like had they not Christianized, as well as if this is something that you could see European culture being different in if they hadn't Christianized. Would we be less wasteful? Would we value the things we have more? Or is that just a natural problem that comes along when you industrialize, when you start being able to make things cheaply? will humans always just prefer the thing that's off the shelf versus something handmade, as long as it's cheaper? Always, as in most times. I don't know, but I just thought that was interesting. And I also just always love a chance to show off my hatchets. So thanks for watching. Yeah, value your things. And if you can, I would say heavily consider getting at least, no matter what your profession or your hobby is. So if you were a programmer, it'd be getting a handmade custom keyboard one day, where some artisan has put thought into the way that it's put together. Or there's really any number of things you could look into to get a high quality version of. Maybe your profession doesn't have anything like this that you can get, but I would say that, if you're a man, look into getting a high quality safety razor for shaving, like actually well made with high quality steel by a company that actually has a history in making razors. Or a watch, or if you're a woman, whatever, whatever you're into. And just kind of experience that organic and raw joy that comes from humans designing something. Man, and don't even get me started on our architecture. I mean, I could go off about our architecture being utilitarian instead of like made for humans to live in, but that's a whole other video. Our houses should look like trees and caves almost, with like arches and bends and greenery and just a lot more dynamics than what we have right now. Just boxes on boxes. Thanks for watching. Consider getting something nice so that you can treat yourself and experience what it's like to have something that'll last you the rest of your life and likely outlast you. Stay humble, stay happy. Hope you guys are well. Have a good one.